Hello everybody and welcome back to 100 Days of Code with me, Lilly Code. Today is day 79 and we're making great progress here on this 100 Days of Code challenge. So just before I begin, a few little housekeeping points to note. The first one being Happy New Year, guys. Happy New Year. We're in January now. It's now January the 12th and I never said Happy New Year. So look, I hope this new year brings peace, prosperity, learning, good challenges that will help you grow, and just wonderful things for all my watchers out there. So thanks so much for continuing to be with me on this journey. It's amazing. So second point to note, housekeeping, no, I'm only messing, but the second point is I've just opened up my Visual Studio Code here, and these are just my settings in my settings.json file. So if anyone's wondering what settings I have on, like here's my theme. I'm using Night Owl at the moment. I've changed it, and in order to get this zoom and stuff, these are my settings. So I just thought that might be a good thing to leave this here. I was just going through and configuring those, so people might be interested, and you can get this by going to your command palette and then just going settings.json, and then you can open your settings.json, which is this file here, and this is where you configure all of your Visual Studio Code things that you would like to configure. So that's what's going on there. Third housekeeping item. The third item is just that so we were doing Sean Wassell's course. That was a React course, a shorter 4.5 hour course than Maximilian's 40-hour course, because I'm trying to do this to recommend, well, what course would I consider a complete React tutorial that's going to get you up to scratch in a good amount of time. And to be honest, Sean Wassell's course, some of it was outdated, and I think for a brand new beginner this is just going to be confusing, in all honesty. So you need to have a little bit of background knowledge just to work through those version changes and to see, well, what's the new change that needs to be implemented, how do I do this? So it's not ideal for somebody who's very green, who's just coming in trying to follow a course. So I'm trying a new course now, and this course again can be found on Udemy. This one, with the previous ones were on O'Reilly, this one can be found on Udemy, which is even better because everybody can purchase it. Udemy, O'Reilly do a free trial for 10 days, so you could do any of the previous courses for 10 days, and the Sean Wassell's one you would finish in 10 days, but parts of it are outdated. So depending on your level of experience with programming in general and React, maybe bridging those gaps might not be easy for you. So I've moved on to the React front to back 2022. So there shouldn't be any discrepancies here because it's been updated for 2022, and this is a very complete course. This is done by Brad Traversy, who runs Traversy Media. He's a big name in programming. So this is great just to get you a bit, the same as Maximilian Schwarzmüller and probably Sean Wassell as well. There's so many competent programmers out there. I'd love to try all of the courses. There's so many out there. Also building things that are actually going to add value to my life and other people's lives. I mean, are you going to get that from just continually doing tutorials? It's time to move on to projects at some stage. But for the purpose of the 100 Days of Code challenge, I wanted to learn React. So getting stuck in and doing these tutorials is a great way to get me to the stage where I can build things that are just more me going off my intuition and knowing how all these things plug together. So that's that foundational knowledge I'm trying to get now. And just also, if you know my own approach to this, you can start to think about how you would like to approach your coding learning journey. So that's why I'm going into all this detail. So yes, Brad Traversy is the guy who's doing this particular course, and he likes to teach through actually doing. So we're going to start this now, and this is what we're going to be building. So let me just see if I can get this up. Oh, I can't. So I'll take a screenshot and I'll show it to you in tomorrow's class what it is that we're going to be building. So yes, I will do that. Let me just do that now. Cool. So that's what we're going to be building. It's on Udemy. The links will, as always, be included in the description box below. And let's get going. So we will be doing the React front to back 2022 Brad Traversy course, link in the description box down below, you guys. Let's see how this one goes. Hopefully nothing should be outdated. So we're going to start by creating a React app, and what we're going to be doing is making a feedback form. So you know the way at the end of using a service you get a feedback form, and you can write in your feedback and send it to the people. So you can just say how you enjoyed using the service. So that's what we're going to build now, is a feedback form. And this is just the first project. There's many projects within this course. This is a 15-hour course, so 3 times the size of Sean Wassell's one. So let's get into it. So as always, just listening to the video a little bit and then we can get going. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a folder. So I'll go to YouTube, yeah, might as well, and I'll create a new folder, and I'm going to call this Brad Traversy. And let's select this folder. So now we have this folder created. We can go to our terminal and we can get started on creating our React project. So the way that Brad is doing this, let's just get rid of mamma mia. So the way we want to do this is terminal, new terminal, and you can see this here now, fab. Yep, let's just close over our file explorer, and what we want to do here is say npx create React app, and I'm going to call this feedback page. So now this will go ahead and create our React app for us. So you need to have Node.js installed in order to do this, which I do have installed already. Please, you are running which is behind the latest release. We no longer support global installation of Create React app. Okay, cool. So let's see, what do we need to update? So npx version, so 6.14.14. okay, so maybe our React is behind React V. I don't know if this will actually work, but it's always a good place to start. So basically, if you're looking for the version of anything, you're told your version is outdated, by just checking the version, you know, you can get some guidance on that there. So let me just make this smaller so you guys can see what it is that I'm doing here. So, and I'll zoom in. So I got the error. So a good place to start with errors is just to Google them, because I'm not sure what exactly is out of date here. Let's just say check React version, because we know it's not npx. So now, is it React? How to in terminal. So here we go, 6 different ways to check. We only need one way, but that's fine. Okay, so package.json, using node modules. Here we go. So this is the command. You can type npm view react version. So npm view react version 17.02. So what is, so create React app is the thing I need to update, actually, of course. So create React app is an npm package that you can use in order to spin up a React app for you. So let's just check this out and check that this, so here you can see create React app on npm. Let's just type in npx, because Brad is using npx, so you know, just good to start the same way he's doing it. So here we go. Grand. Okay, so I'm going to look at Only one dependency, no locking, get started in seconds. Okay, great, look. Updating your build tooling is typically a daunting and time-consuming task when new versions of Create React app are released. I just want to make sure you can really see this. When new versions of Create React app are released, you can upgrade using a single command. So the single command that we've been shown here on the Create React app.dev website, which is where we're getting this Create React app from, and this just spins up a React application for you. It's an npm package, so you can just use this to start your project. And let's type this in. So there was a command there in order to upgrade the React scripts to the latest React scripts. So if we run that now, hopefully we shall be upgrading this Create React app from 4.0.3 to the latest release, which is 5, which seems exactly what we're doing. We're saying install React scripts latest, and we got this React scripts latest from the Create React app website. So it seems like we are upgrading the same thing. So here, when new versions of Create React app are released, you can upgrade using a single command. So this should fix our problem that we've just seen now when we tried to create a React app. So perfecto selecto, let's let that run, and then we can try and run our command again and see how that works for us when we do it another time. Cool. Okay guys, so I just paused for a moment to save you the hassle of watching that loading, and now let's give that another go. So we're going to try npx create react app, and our react app is called feedback page. Ooh, you are running. We're still not running the right version. Okay, so I guess first of all I need to remove these global installs as directed. So let's do this. Anyone who is also, I didn't install my React all that long ago. It would have been last year, which obviously you need to keep these things up to date, but it wasn't ages ago. And okay, yeah, so I installed it through npm, and I've uninstalled it through npm as well, so that's fine. And then yarn is just the same, another package manager, so I didn't install it through yarn, which is why that command isn't working. So then if we come back, so you know, you could do the same, just run them both, the suggested commands, and if one works, great. You only need one or the other actually, so I just wasn't thinking straight there for a second. So now if we come back to our Create React app, getting started. Okay, so we recommend you uninstall it. Okay, so you just uninstall it, and then it should always just use the more recent version. So now if we try that, we've uninstalled it, and we now try npx install. npx create react app feedback page, so the name of the application we want to create. Hopefully now this should work, because there is no global version installed that's pointing to a specific version. It's just going to pull the most recent version on creation. So there we go, we have our new React application, so perfect. So grand, while that's running, I'm just watching the next steps. Okay, so I forgot a command. So if I just stop that, come back here to my folders and delete that folder. Let's just go ahead and delete that, and then we need to add another flag. So come into Brad Traversy. Here is our feedback application that we've created, so I'm just going to delete all that, and then as that's deleting, let's just go ahead and type in the new command. So we want npx create react app feedback page, and we want to add a flag to use npm, and this will allow us to use npm instead of yarn when we're updating our packages. So again, yarn, npm, they're just package managers. We've gone through this before, so that should all be fine. I'll do a video on them. and so keep your eyes peeled for that. I'll just take a note of that while this is still deleting here, so I'll just pause the video again and be back to you in a moment. Okay, super, so that's now complete and we have added our flag use-npm. So let's run this again now and get our project in our Brad Traversy folder within our YouTube folder. As we can see, the file path here, and within this folder we want to create a new React app called feedback page. So there we go, that's done, and let's continue to watch. Yeah, so we'll just let that run again, and then we'll get a list of commands we can run, and we can fire up our application and see what it looks like. So let's do that now. So while that's going as well, another important point to note about Udemy is that Udemy often have sales on, guys, right? So the classes, the different what would you call courses that you can buy, there's loads of courses on loads of different things, like web development, front-end development, React frameworks like React, Angular. Well, React is a library, but there's so many different courses on there that you can buy, and not even just about web development, about loads of things, and they often go on sale. So if you just go onto Udemy and you look for a course and it's 150 quid and you have the money, okay, you know, and you don't mind spending it and you just want to get started on this or another course, go ahead and buy it. But if it's a bit much of a crunch for you, I mean, it's worth it. You're going to get 6 months, a year, you know, 6 months learning out of these courses, really. They take a while to complete. So, and you're going to learn so much as well, and I highly recommend the Udemy courses, but they do often have sales. So if that's too expensive, that's totally understandable, and they do flash sales where all of them drop down to about 15 quid. So keep your eyes peeled. 15 euros, quid is just another term for euros in Ireland. So yeah, they drop to about 15 euros, 14 pounds, you know, whatever. So a lot less than 150. So just keep that in mind. So now we have the various commands that we can run here. So we can run npm start, run build, npm test, and npm run eject, and it tells you what these different commands do. So for the moment we're going to be focusing on npm start, because that'll just start up our development server so we can see what we're doing and start to code. So I'm just listening again to the video. So we're going to start by running npm start anyway, so I might as well just get that going. I just know that's coming. So first we need to cd into our new folder that we just created, so our feedback page, and now we can run npm start from within that folder. We want to run our project that we've just created. Cool. So now we have our project and we've created a simple React application, and now we're going to edit it to our own configuration and what we actually want. So we'll just give that a moment to load, and in the meantime we're going to just discuss some of these folders that it's created for us. So we've gone through this before as well, but sure, what's the harm? So first of all, we have our package.json, and this contains all the packages that we need to install and gives us the versions of them. So for example, we have React here, which is our main library that we're using. So we need to say that we want to use this in what version. Same with React DOM and React scripts. So there's just different configuration in here for our project and versions of packages that we're using or that we're dependent on. Okay, yeah, so we've got our two main folders, our public folder and our source folder as well. And public has your index.html, which is where your application will boot up from. Yeah, so this is the single page that's actually loaded in the browser, and we can see here this calls out to the div of ID root. We're inserting in the div with the ID of root in here, and then in our app.js we can see in our index.js, yes, in our index.js, sorry, we can see document.get element by root. So, and then in here we have our app inserted into our index.js. So then this goes and bootstraps up the app.js file. So that's how that's all linked together. Your index.html is the main page that's ran by your browser, and that's linking to the other files that are then linking to your whole React project. Yeah, so everything we do in a React application will be done in React, and then it will all be inserted in here into this div. So this is just a placeholder for our entire application, this div here. So yeah, let's clear up some of these comments. Cool, so we can get rid of these comments here, so let's do that. So, and just keep our template HTML file. So I'll get rid of this comment as well, and this comment. And then we also have our title here, which says React App, but we're going to change this to feedback UI. Feedback UI is linking to the title. So if we come back here, we can see now up in our tab we have feedback UI. So that's what that's changed. That was saying React App before. So cool. Yeah, and if you wanted to use Font Awesome or something, you just add a link to Font Awesome in here. So that can easily be done as well if you want to do that. This is where you put it in your index.html file. Yeah, and then the source folder is where all the magic happens. So this is where your React project will be built, where you'll create your components that are going to all link together and display on your main page. So this is where we'll do our development mainly. Cool. So the first thing we're going to do, just to see how all this works, is delete everything in the source folder, because we're going to do this ourselves now. So if we just delete everything, let's delete it. Yeah, move it to the recycle bin. Cool. So now our source folder is empty, and we see we have an error down here now, which makes sense because it's telling us that different files don't exist because we've deleted them, but we're going to replace them and create our own. So if we go back to our browser here, let's just say, so yes, it says we don't have an index.js in our feedback page project, in our Brad Traversy folder, in our YouTube folder, in our documents folder. So that's just telling us that we're missing this page that's needed to bootstrap up the application. So we're going to create it ourselves. Yeah, so the first file we're going to create is this index.js because we need that, you know, it's telling us that we don't have it. So let's go ahead and create that. So we'll say new file and we'll just call this index.js. So perfect. So the first thing we need to do is we want to insert this div.id root. We need to tell it where it's going to link to in order to insert in here in the index.html file. So that's going to happen in our index.js. So first we'll import React from React, and we'll also import React DOM. So import React DOM from React DOM. So now we want to tell it what to render, so we can just say React DOM, and this should all be capitals, excuse me, DOM. So now we want to use this and say React DOM dot render, and we're going to just render a h1 tag for now. So let's say h1, and then we can say my feedback app. Application, cool. Yep. Yeah, and then we also just need to tell it where we want it to render this. So this is where we pass in the root. So we say document.getElementById, and this is JavaScript getElementById, and the element we want to get is the root element. So great, let's save that and let's see. There we go. Now we can see our h1 being injected in from our index.js file into the index.html file, because now it's pulling the ID of root, which we've now configured. So now we can see our application coming together. Well, we can at least see the only thing we put in it, which was the h1. So it's a good start. So what we actually want to display here, rather than a h1, is our main root component that will then link to all the other components. So that's going to be our app component. Cool, so now we're going to create that file. We're going to create our app.js file. So back over here, we can just create app.js with a capital A. So yeah, our classes can be either classes or functions. So yeah, classes are sort of the older way and functions are the new way. So I'm going to stick with function-based component declarations. It's what I'm more used to as well, and it's the newer way to do things. And you can use React hooks when you use the function-based components as opposed to class-based components. So you know, it seems to be the better approach, and it's the one that I'm more comfortable with, and it happens to be the one that Brad is doing, because obviously I'm following him as well. So we're just going to create a function called app. Cool. And then we can return, and let's just return a h1 hello from the app component. And we also just need to export this now so it can be used elsewhere. So export app, and that's export default app, sorry, default app, and save. So perfect. And now in our index.js we want to import this, so we'll say import app from app, and we just need to say from the same level, so we'll do that, and then we want to return app here instead. So we just put app in here. So now this particular component that we've just created is going to be injected in here, and that's going to be our root. So now if we go back, we can see hello from the app component. So we've successfully injected that into our index.js, and we are starting to build out our React application. The basic building blocks, the things you need, these are what would come already when you do the create React app, but just to see which files were actually needed from that whole amount that was created. Not all of them were needed, we're just creating them again ourselves, and to go through the process of that. So what this is doing is, this is saying the div of ID root, injecting the app component. So we can see if we go to our elements here and we go down, we can actually see here our div of ID root, and within that then we have our app component being injected in, and the app component at the moment just contains, it's just returning hello from the app component. So that's why that's all you're seeing there, but that's coming from our app component. So great. So we also have a React strict mode that just gives better checking on what we're doing. So we can add this, wrap everything in this, and this will give us warnings if something is going wrong here. So instead we'll wrap our app, which is just everything that's going to be output from our application, in React.strict mode, and this will just keep everything strict for us and tell us if we have errors that could otherwise be avoided. So just additional checks and warnings will be ran now on our project as a result of this. Okay, and we still have other stuff given out, but that's okay. So we're down here. Cool. So now we don't have any errors because we've created those files. And we also just want to create a global CSS file. So again, we'll come up here and we will say index.css. So this is our global CSS file now. So in this project, what we're going to do is have a global style sheet that will style everything the same way. So this global style sheet will filter down through all of our components and affect them all. So if we have a button in a component, then we can style it here. So for example, we know we have a H1, so let's style that H1 and just say color red. So this should change the text of that H1 to red. So, and it did not. Let's see, color red. Yeah. Okay, so I don't know why that didn't. Oh, because I haven't linked it. Okay, maybe. Yeah, so I need to actually import this as well. Obviously, these little things are easy to forget sometimes. So I want to actually import that. So I'll put it here. Import index text. And now if I save that, once I've imported it in, we can see that we actually have that red styling added. And it's not just for me adding it in here. So if I go color blue, you can mess around with different properties that you want to change in your dev tools here. So it's really handy. But if I reload again, we can see that the base color is being set as red, and that is coming from our global CSS styles. So perfect. Cool. So now what we're going to discuss is JSX, which is what we are returning from our app.js here. So this is a JSX statement. So this is what all of our React components return, is a JSX segment. So it's basically HTML, but underneath the hood it's JavaScript. So it allows us to write HTML within our components. That's what JSX does. It allows us to write HTML within our components. So it's very convenient. Yeah, so I've already covered this in previous videos, but you can't have two tags in line. So if we have one here and say this is a paragraph, we'll see that this gives us an error because you need to have one parent level div in a JSX return statement. So if we go back here, we'll see we have an error, and the error is adjacent JSX elements must be wrapped in an enclosing tag. Did you want a JSS fragment? So it'll actually tell you what the problem is, it'll give you a solution. So yes, we did actually. So a JSS fragment is as simple as just an opening fragment like this, that's just an opening tag with nothing in it, and then a closing one. So you can do that, and this will then wrap this in one parent element and it will be okay. So again, this could be a div. You just need a top level element. So here we have one div and then nested sub tags within that top level tag, whereas when we had it the previous way, there was two top level tags. So they must all be wrapped in a parent element. That's with JSX, and then JSX is used in React, so with React. So that's an important point to note. So yeah, here in our div, if we give this a class of, let's say, app component, we should get an error here as well. So let's check that out, component, and save, and go back to our browser. We get an invalid DOM property class. Did you mean class name? So yes, in JSX we don't use class like we would in HTML. Instead it's class name. So once we do that and fix that, we shouldn't have that warning anymore. So let's reload the page, and the warning's gone away, and we can see there we have our paragraph and we have our H1 displayed on our page. So perfect. Cool, yeah, so we can also use Emmet. So if we just do .my class and tab, Emmet will create our div for us there. So you can keep that in mind. Emmet is very handy. So say if we want to add a paragraph here, we can go app paragraph and tab, and it will create a p tag, with the class name of app paragraph. So it's a good shortcut having Emmet, and we just installed Emmet by our Emmet is built into Visual Studio Code. So if you go to your settings.json, all you need to do is actually tell it that you want to use it. So you add this in here. So just by telling Emmet that you want to actually use it, you can use it then. So I'll include this in the comments down below as well. So Emmet is very useful for making shortcuts in React. So here we have Emmet include languages, JavaScript, React. So I'll just copy this and paste it into the notes for today so that I can include this. Cool. Okay, cool. So now we can actually start building out this app.js component. So what we're going to do is in our source folder here, we're going to create a new folder, and this folder is going to be called components. And then we're going to create our first component that we're going to use in this application, which is going to be our header. So let's create our header component, and the name of the component is always capitalized, and in React your files can either end in JS or JSX. So let's go with JSX and continue. So there's a great extension you can use. If we come to our extensions here, I already have it installed. I should do this ES7 Redux, React Redux GraphQL, React Native Snippets. And when I started this course, I did the setup standalone just because it was just boring. We've already gone through all that stuff. Just starting on the project would probably be better, and as well, if things are to change in the meantime, he will update his course, whereas this video isn't going to be updated for this specific project. I'm recording this at this time, and then I'll be moving on to more tutorial based things after this 100 days. So that's why I just left it as is. And really, if you follow along with the Udemy project from scratch, you'll get all the different extensions that you need. But really, all they were, we've gone through these before as well. Auto rename tag will just rename the tags, and they're not necessary, they're just helpful, so you can get on without them anyway. So auto rename tag is an extension, and that will rename a tag. So see here, if you want to change the name of this first tag, it will rename the second tag for you as well. So very handy. Brackets pair colorizer just colorizes the different brackets. So this particular one, ES6 React Redux GraphQL snippets, this will allow you to make your coding quicker by using snippets. So we can use that now. So within our header component, okay, so in here we can see that they have a command to create a functional component, and the command is rfce or fcp, sorry, so rfcp. So this is going to just create this basic functional component for us, and they also have ones for class-based components and stuff, but we're not using class-based components at the moment, so we'll use this rfcp shortcut, or RFC even, just a smaller version. And this one we can get it exported, so let's actually do RFCE. Cool. So yes, with the underscore, if we were to not leave out the underscore or FCE and tab, this includes the import React from React, which was needed up until quite recently, and now you don't need to actually import this anymore. It's no harm including it, but we don't actually need it. So if we do RFCE and enter, we get the same component, a functional component created. It's exported at the end, but we don't have that import because we don't actually need it anymore, so we can leave it out, but also leaving it in won't cause any harm, and you'll see it in older projects. So yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to change this first div to a header instead, a header tag, header, and then in here we're going to create a div with the class name of container. So I can just use my Emmet for that, and so dot container, which gives the class name, and then tab to create the whole div with that class name. And I'll also create a h2, so h2 and tab will create our h2 for us, and we're going to call this feedback UI. Cool. So in order to actually show this on our page, if we come back to our browser, we'll see that we don't actually see that yet. So let me just make this a bit handier for you guys. Maybe just going like this is, oh, wrong window is a good solution. So yeah, and then we'll add our browser window here. Perfect. And I will just put my developer tools at the bottom because that's just going to be more visually better. So now we have our dev tools down here. I'll zoom in a little bit on our web page. So we can see at the moment we don't actually see so you can't see the console, I'll keep that in mind. We don't actually see the new component that we've created, and that's because we haven't actually injected it into our app component yet, so we'll do that. So we just need to import it. So import header, and it should do the automatic import for you there, and then we can use this. So if we come down below, we'll wrap everything in another main tag. So or a fragment even. So let's just create a fragment here. And then I can move everything up into this fragment, and then we can add our app header as the first item. So we just say header, and we can self-close this like so. And now our header component should be added. So this all needs to tab in. Okay, perfect. So now we can see our header there. Our feedback UI is all we added into our header at the moment. So we'll flesh this out, but we can see it now in our app component. So great. So what we can do with components as well is we can pass in props, and these allow the component to be used dynamically. So this feedback UI at the moment in our header JSX is hard coded in. So this can only be used for this specific component, whereas by using props and passing in different values, we can change them dynamically every single time we use a new instance of the component. So you might want to have your header component as a header, like, it's not the best example because you generally only have one header on a page, but still you might want to use it somewhere else. Or say, for example, if you had a form and you had a component for each of the inputs, you don't want each of the inputs to say the exact same thing, so you pass in, say, the name of the input as a prop, and then when you pass in that new name, so it could be name, email, address, you pass that in, and the same component will spin up a new instance of the input with these different names passed through because we used props. So we're going to change this to use props now to make it dynamic. So here in our header, we're going to pass in a prop called text, and we'll call this text hello world. So then within our header here, we need to actually accept these props. So we say in here props, and then we can use these props. So down here we can add curly brackets and say props.text, because the name of that prop is text. And then if we save, we can see that text coming through. So we can change that dynamically now every time we create a new header component. If we want to add another one here, for example, let's duplicate this, and this one will say I'm Lily code. So let's save that and have a look. So now we can see we've two instances of the header component on our page, and we've passed in different props, so therefore they can be used slightly differently, but the same functionality is there. We have a header, a component that's inserting this text. That's all it's doing for the moment. So props are really handy for doing things like this. Yeah, so another thing we can do as well is, rather than just passing in props, if you know the name of the props, which you should, you can type in the name here, destructure it, so you add the curly brackets and destructure it. So we're calling it out here that it's called text, so then we just need to refer to text, which stops us having to write props everywhere. So that's handy. So what we can also do is set default props. So if I just get rid of one of these instances and delete this for the moment, and then we'll see that nothing is there because we haven't passed in any props, but we can set up default props. So down here we can say header, which is the name of our component, .default props, and equal this to what we would like these to be. So we'll create an object, and the one we want to add is text, and this will be feedback UI. And now you can see it's back again. We can see feedback UI. Cool. So if we do IMPT up here, IMPT, we can import prop types, and this will give us checks on our props and make sure that, say, if we want to use a string for a prop, that a string is being used. So that's cool. So the shortcut for this cool. So then we just do something similar to our default props, and we name the prop type. So we just say header dot prop types with a lowercase p, and we open up our object again. We equal this and we say the different props that we have. So text prop types, and then we get different options. So we can say, is it an array, is it a boolean, what is it, you know, what type is it? So we have loads, and what we currently have is a string, so we'll just set that to a string. And if you needed this, you could also add is required to make sure that that's provided when you use an instance of the header component. But for the moment we won't use that, because if someone leaves out that prop and we start using it a different way, we don't want them to be hung up just because they didn't add that. But that is useful sometimes if you know you definitely need it. So now what we can do is in our header JSX, or no, in our app.js, sorry, where we're using our header, we can say text is equal to true, which will pull in all of this information that we have at the bottom of the file here and pass it in. So we have a warning in our console. Let's have a look at that. And the warning says props is not defined. What else have we got? So we've got props is not defined. The above error occurred in the header component. Reference error, props is not defined. So failed prop type, header prop type text is invalid. It must be a function, usually from the prop types package, but received undefined. So let's make sure. So look, here we go. So here we say failed prop type, invalid prop text of boolean supplied to header expected a string. So we pass true, which is a boolean, and what we actually want to pass here is a string. So that gives you the extra type checking. So if you pass in the wrong thing, it will tell you. So how do we access this then? Header.default props now. Header, yeah. Okay, so this is how you add extra prop types onto your particular props. But in the instance that we don't need prop types, which we don't, we'll just pass through the text. And the text is going to be props text. No, text is equal to feedback UI. Okay, cool. So now in our header, yes, we are destructuring that prop and we are displaying that prop, so perfect. So now in our index.css, we're going to add some global styles. So let's come to our index.css file and add in some styles. Cool, so Brad is after applying a big set of styles from the index.css that he got from his own project. So I'll add that in. We just need to copy it from the GitHub repo. So I need to go and find that basically. Code repos, here we go. So cool, so Brad Traversy feedback app on GitHub. So if we just come to GitHub, github.com, cool, and let's log in here. I just want to log in. I don't need to sign up. Sign in. Cool. So let's just go with my main project. So I'll also create a new repository for this. So I'll just create a new repo and I will call this feedback app Brad React course. You know, might as well just be descriptor. So Udemy React course with Brad Traversy, and it's called React Front to Back 2022. React Front to... Holy Moses. Oh well, that just went ahead and did that. That's fine anyway. So now what I want to do is just initialize my Git repository here. So I'll come down to my terminal, new terminal, and run git init. So let's actually cd into... We don't need to cd in. We'll just do it from our Brad Traversy folder. So git init. Then we will git add everything. Then we will commit, do our first commit. So git first commit, then we will say that our branch is going to be our main branch, and we'll add the remote origin, which is this URL, so it knows where to push the code up to. So we'll add that, and then we can just push to the origin main. So push up our code, perfect. And then we're going to have a commit on git. And what I want to actually do, what I came here for, was to look for Brad Traversy. And let's get rid of that hash. And I've obviously spelt his name wrong. Brad Traversy. I do not see anything wrong there. Brad. All of GitHub, here we go. And I want to search for Brad Traversy in all of GitHub, great. And now users. And here he is, perfect. And then what I want to do from here is find his feedback app. So, repositories and feedback. And there's the feedback app. So perfect. So now from the feedback app, we can go into our source folder. This is the code, the completed code. Here's our index.css. And then we literally have our code here. So copy the raw contents of this file and then let's paste it in our index.css file. So if we paste this in, this is the CSS that's been wrote for this particular project. And let's have a quick look at it just to make sure you understand what's going on in here. So basically one thing we've done is imported a font from Google Fonts. That's fine, you just import it with the URL like this and the add import and then pass the URL into the parentheses. This star means everything, so style everything on the page with a margin of 0, padding of 0 and box sizing border box. Then you have your body, which is the main body of your page. Any unordered lists we want to style in this way. Our container class, so that's why we have the dot, our container class, which we can see, so this should be container, and let's save that and go and have a look at our page here. So we can see we've got a few styles coming together here now just from adding these simple styles to our main overarching CSS file, which is going to affect all of the styles all over the place. So here we can see our header. It has a height of 70px, width of 100. We're using flex box here, so display flex is displaying it in a flex, which is why it's centered like that, because we've justified the content space between for the header, so that's why that's laying out like that there. See, if we hover over this and go down to our our things here, we can see if we highlight on the header, so here's our header tag, here's our header, we've specifically called out the CSS for the header here, and we can see that that matches what we've said, because that's how this all works. So that's it tying together there. You can inspect this in your developer tools. So if I move this over here, you can see here how that adds up then. So we've inspected our header element. We didn't exactly hit our header there. I accidentally selected the root, so you can just traverse through here and select any element you want. So we want to have a look at the header element for a moment, and you can see then the styles that are applied to the header, and they match up with what we've specifically said we want them to be in our CSS. And you can add in new ones here just to test stuff out. So again, we could go color red, and this will change the color of the header text to red, and if we added that in here, that change would remain, whereas we're just testing it out. So if we reload now, that will go away and it'll go back to the saved values. But if we liked something that we'd messed with, we can always add it in, and then it will remain because it's been added to the code. This is just for testing out different things. You can add stuff in. So super. Okay, great guys, so we've created our new React application, our feedback application, and we're going to create a feedback page here to give feedback to somebody after we've used their checkout, say, on the website. You can bring you to the feedback page and you can give your feedback about your experience. So that's what we're building. We've added our global styles, and we've just sort of built out our application just a little bit so we can see what's going on. We've seen how to pass props, and we've created our header component. So we're going to continue with this tomorrow and really hope to make great progress on this course. So at the moment we are already on section 3. So we're on section 3, components, props and state. So the videos are very short, we're flying through them, and there is 16 sections in total. So 3 out of 16, we're doing very well. So look, thanks so much for joining me guys on another episode of 100 Days of Code with me, Lilly Code. Have an absolutely wonderful day. I appreciate everybody so much that's coming to check these out, and I really hope you're learning something as a result of following along with me. And do stay tuned for my more tutorial based videos, which will come out as soon as this 100 Days of Code series is over. If there's anything you'd like me to cover, please leave a comment in the description down below. If there's any topics of coding that are confusing for you, it will be my pleasure to go through them and explain them in more depth. So thank you so much guys. Have a wonderful day. Peace.